Hello everybody, welcome back to Civ House. I'm Rob, he's Connor. We appreciate you guys joining us today. We are back for another little episode here at the Civ House. And Connor, I'm excited today because we're each going to be giving one leader and one Civ that we think, or at least would love to have added to the game. Connor, I don't know about you, but I'm really excited about this one. We've got some interesting things that we have cooked up.
Yeah, I think so. I think we're going to say some things that maybe people don't expect, but this is one of those where, you know, there's a lot of things in Civ 7 that I think have been good improvements, but there are a lot of things that people want more of. They want more maps, they want more options of all kinds of different things. So we wanted to start exploring some of those options that could potentially be the case here today. So yeah, I'm super excited to dive into this. It's going to be funny.
Yeah, I think stoked is probably the best way for me to put it. And if you guys are, I know we're hyping it up, make sure that you like and subscribe. It does help us out a lot. Every like helps us, you know, kind of reach more people. And if you think that this content is good, if you enjoy Civ 7 content, make sure to subscribe. It's awesome. We're really starting to build a community here, and we appreciate all of you who are already giving us comments. It's been fantastic, to say the least. Also, make sure to let us know in the comments section below if there are any leaders or civs that you would like to have added to the game, or if you have any thoughts about mine or Connor's, because, like I said, we've got some pretty spicy picks here.
There's going to be thoughts. There's going to be thoughts, yeah.
There will be thoughts, and I think you guys are either going to hate or love them. I'm very hopeful that it will be the latter, but, you know, Connor, a little bit of, I don't know, hate can go a long way, maybe?
Yeah, should be fine. But yeah, I think if we're gonna get hate, it might be on mine. So we'll start with mine. We can get. I'll go leader first.
Lead us off.
Okay. So listen, folks. A lot of the leaders in the game are tried and true historical figures from a wide range of history. We really don't have a lot of love in the modern age. There's not a lot of modern leaders in the game currently. In fact, I would borderline argue there's hardly any. So this one is going to be interesting, and it doesn't necessarily fit into the timeline of the modern age. So I get that. But my submission for a leader is Hayao Miyazaki, the creator of Studio Ghibli. One, I'm a big anime fan. But two, you can't deny the impact Miyazaki has made on anime at large. Now, we could obviously go back, and you could make this a leader who maybe came up with, did some more influential things at the very beginnings of anime. But I mean, Miyazaki was born in 1941. He's still alive. He's a name that people know. He's an absolute cultural icon in Japan, like so widely loved. And a lot of Studio Ghibli is about airplanes. I mean, that's like the name Ghibli is like a joke about an airplane, basically, that he made. And it's featured in almost every movie. Yeah, I'm a big Ghibli fan. I love all the movies, seriously. Went to Japan last year and got to see went to the Ghibli warehouse and museum, all this cool stuff, right? So I'm a big fanboy. So let me just get that out of the way.
That's a good thing.
Yeah, and so I think you can make Miyazaki a potential, I mean, definitely cultural. It would definitely be a cultural leader with some kind of emphasis there, probably on great works. And then you'd have some kind of synergy with the modern age, maybe something with planes. So you'd have him as a leader that like could scale into the late game, maybe struggling a bit more in Antiquity where he would be very out of place. But also, like, I don't want to worry too much about him being out of place because we have Ben Franklin in Antiquity anyway, so it's like, come on, it's fine. Neither of these people would have existed in the old BCE days, but all that to say, would love to see a Miyazaki in Civ 7. I think there's a lot of fans of Ghibli that would come over to Civ 7 because of that. We'd introduce a lot of new players to the game. It would be a lot of fun. So yeah, that's my leader submission, Rob.
If you are a modder, I would love to see you make this. I would personally play it. I think it makes sense. Like, I want like more artistic people in the game as well, right? Like, one of the names I was considering, I didn't pick it, was actually John Williams. Similar to you, I'm a huge John Williams fanboy. Music is a big thing for me, specifically like orchestral music, right? And he's created timeless classics, been around, even, you know, served in the military at different points. So it'd be fun to kind of make him a weird combination of like a, I don't know, cultural militaristic one. So that's not my person, but I'm saying like I would see something like that. I think for Miyazaki, I think that would be an absolutely awesome addition. Maybe even make him like diplomatic, maybe, right? Because he does run his own company, or economic potentially. You know, there could be some weird combination way that you could do that as well. And I would love to personally see that. I think he would. I think he'd be a lot of fun personally, and like Can you imagine having like a great work being one of the movies?
Yeah, that's
sick.
so much of the fun of it. Is then you can introduce things like that. I mean, I would imagine he would fit in realistically into like if let's say they added a fourth age, and then they did like a DLC package to go along with that, and they added some new leaders and civs. That's when you release like a modern civ leader package.
Yep.
And he's in it. Maybe some other modern folks that people could recognize. Maybe some that are still alive or recently passed or something. But I don't see why not. I think it would be awesome. So yeah.
I love it. Absolutely love it. My leader's a little less exciting, Connor, in terms of that.
Less exciting.
Less exciting in that regard. But I do think that he'd be a really fun leader. In terms of Archimedes, I made a video about this, and he was my number one option. I'm sticking with that, Connor. You guys can go check out that other video. I had 4 other leaders for specifically from the Antiquity Age that I thought would be fun. But I think Archimedes was incredible, right? His defense of Syracuse is still used and talked about today, right? I don't know if you guys recently saw the latest Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny. But, you know, spoiler alert, I guess, for those of you who haven't seen it, Archimedes plays a role in it, okay? And it's really cool to see, and his defenses and his siege weapons and the things that he came up with for just a small city back then, right? And now, if you don't know, Syracuse is on the Sicilian Peninsula. So they were like some of the first areas the Romans were going into back, I think it was like 300 BC. So, just an incredible mind, somebody who was already a well-known scholar, well-known philosopher, and I think he'd fit perfectly as a scientific, militaristic leader. And he's somebody who, you know, what I love about these new leaders is that they're historical, important people that, like, we play out in the mindset of what would it be like if they led it, right? Not necessarily that they are all leaders, like people who are, you know, I mean, Franklin helped to lead the United States, or Harriet Tubman, right? She led people, but she wasn't necessarily like an overall leader of the United States or anything at that point. And so what I love about this is the opportunity to add people who maybe they weren't like, you know, national leaders of things or military leaders. Archimedes was a different type of leader where he gave the people hope because of the inventions that he came up with and the ability to destroy Romans in such an insane way that, you know, it took them way over the expected time. I can't remember how long, but it took them, I think, months longer than they expected to. Syracuse held out for forever, and it was almost all because of Archimedes and his ability to create things that nobody else expected. I think one of the things he did, Connor, was I think he put a trebuchet on the walls of the city of Syracuse, where he like literally mounted it to where it was like literally partially hanging over the wall and using that as a way to create, you know, more torque and everything. So pretty insane guy, honestly, and a lot of medieval techniques and stuff came from his defense of Syracuse. So again, maybe not as like, I'll call it spicy as Miyazaki, but a guy who I think would fit so perfectly into this game that it would be a shame if they never put him in.
Yeah, I'm with you. And I think that this, you know, there's so many. It's hard with antiquity leaders because there are so many that I think you could point to.
Yes.
But this really is a good one. I mean, this is one, like you said, it makes a lot of sense to have the kind of military scientific pairing together. I think that's a play style that people like anyway. And so why not have different flavors of that? You could even, like you're mentioning the trebuchet thing, you could have a siege specialty here.
Yep.
Or defensive siege. Like if you use siege units defensively, they get a bonus. Like there could be really neat things you could do with synergy like that. So yeah, I would be all for that.
Yeah, and I think he would be so much fun to play, dude. Can you, like, especially like imagine playing him tall instead of wide. And it's like he's a guy who, like, if you have 3 or less cities or something like that, right, like he gets a huge defensive bonus or a war weariness, right, against his opponents. That would be sick. I can see so many ways for them to go with this one. But I digress, because it is time for us to hop into your Civ, which I'm excited about because I know you've got a personal connection to this.
Yeah, I do. My Civ is particularly one for the exploration age, and that is going to be Denmark or the Vikings. So I feel like this is a huge thing that's missing right now in Civ 7 are kind of like different ways to interact with the exploration age in a way that's not just collecting treasure.
Yes.
And in a way in particular, so like with the Vikings, they had a particular prowess with not necessarily naval battle, but like pillaging. So going onto land and getting advantages from coming into land with basically surprise attacks, shipping units out. And this is around between 800 and 1000 AD, which fits pretty neatly in the exploration age currently. So we've had Harold Bluetooth before in games. I honestly am just surprised that there isn't something like this, like a militaristic kind of sea to land civ in the exploration age. And again, I'm some percentage Danish. My grandpa's parents came over from Denmark. It's on both sides of the family. I've been to Denmark, and I have just a huge affinity for that part of the world. The Viking Age is obviously kind of a dark time, depending on how you look at it. I mean, they were certainly savage people. If you've seen Vinland Saga, you've seen an anime portrayal of that to bring it back to anime. It's a great show, by the way. Plug for Vinland Saga. But there's a lot you could do with this. So again, this is kind of I would say this is a bit more of a bland pick. This is one, honestly, I'm just surprised we don't have. Is some kind of, again, like Danish or even like a pirate kind of civ in the exploration age would have been cool. So, but yeah, Denmark for sure would have been mine.
Yeah, I was looking at Eric the Red, actually, to add to my top 5 leaders list for the Antiquity Age, but I kept coming back to him as maybe being exploration based on how they do things right now, because, like, a lot of the Vikings, I think, they do go out and they explore. Like, that's their whole thing, right? Like, I also thought about Leif Erikson, right? I think a really cool character in history that could be somebody important. So, I don't know. I'm kind of shocked as well that they don't do that. I think that era... Again, I think the medieval era in that, like right after the Roman Empire, before the Renaissance era, is really kind of being forgotten about, Connor. And so I would love to see them pick a civ that could really slot into that well. And I do think that pillaging, I know that there are some units that you can pillage with for sure, right? But I think not having the Vikings kind of right off the bat is crazy to me, and one that if you're going to do the exploration age, go with the original explorers, and that was the Vikings. So Denmark, Vikings, however you want to end up naming them, I think would make a ton of sense.
Just Norse or anything like that. I mean, and I was the same way. Like I'm a philosophy major, so Soren Kierkegaard is a famous Danish philosopher from around that kind of medieval period as well. Thought about him for a leader. Thought about a lot of other philosophers as well, which we talked about just before hopping on here. But yeah, I mean, there could be bonuses for pillaging. You could have pillaging have a chance to like spawn a migrant in one of your cities, because that's a lot of that's kind of how they built their population in a lot of ways. So there's a lot of cool mechanics I think are on the table for a Danish civ in the exploration era. But
yeah, I couldn't agree more. I could not agree more. Well, we're heading towards the end here, Connor, and I've got a civ that I think a lot of people would be excited about. And I know that we already have the Greeks specifically, but I think that the Spartans in particular should be, brought into this. Now, I know that they have the hoplites and, a lot of the way that the Greek civ feels right now, honestly, is more of an Athens-ish Greece. But the city-states of Greece, and the reason why we even have the name city-states to begin with, was because they were all very different. And I think the Spartans are the most different. And I would love to see them kind of make that disconnect. I know it's probably unlikely, but, one of my areas of study, I was a history major. I have my master's in social studies education, right? And one of the things that I focused on most was the Greco-Roman era. I always found it to be exciting. I remember being in like 6th grade, and we were given, like, each table of 6 of us was given a city-state that we had to focus on from, the Greeks. And I got Sparta, and man, oh man. Then you had 300 come out just a few years later, and I was just like, let's go. Spartans all the way, baby, right? Oh, so good. So good. And so I would love to see them, and it fits into the militaristic side. I'm just not even going to lean away from it anymore. You guys already know, military is the way I go. Give me military and diplomatic for them, because they did have a lot of good diplomacy. That's kind of why they were able to do what they were able to do. And give me a special unit called the Spartan. It's a playoff of maybe, the hoplite that's already in the game, but make them a little bit more offensive instead of defensive. I know, everybody knows them for 300, but they were the fiercest fighters in the world for a reason, right? Like, the reason why Thermopylae even happened at all was because they were the best. A lot of the other city-states were more than willing to succumb to Xerxes, right? Nope. Get them in there and allow them to be, like, you could even maybe have them be cultural. Like, they really were. They spread their culture very well. Like, they were very specific about the way that they did things, way more so than, the Athenian Greeks. They all were connected to a certain degree, right? And they all eventually ended up identifying as Greeks, but they weren't necessarily the same people, right? And that happens in a lot of countries nowadays, right? Where things are a lot bigger, different states, different provinces. I mean, even just different parts of like the UK, people have different identities, right? Like, that's just kind of how it goes. And I would love to see the Spartans get in here, Connor, because I think they have so much culture. They have so much more than just the fighting, but man, it would be super fun to see a bunch of Spartans running around, kind of dominating. And I would love to see personally, my last little bit here is I would love to see the Spartans fighting the legions of Rome. Oh. I think that would be sick. And there would be a lot of cool things to happen with that.
Yeah, I'm with you. And I think this would be awesome. I mean, 300 is just a very badass movie across the board. It's awesome.
Absolutely.
So cannot shy away from the fact that was such a sick movie. Yeah, I think this would be cool. I think this could be from a gameplay perspective, this could be a neat way to have civs kind of have flavors as well. So we have leaders with flavors right now, like Xerxes this, Xerxes that, right? But we don't really have that with civs. Like, we don't have I want to play as Greece, but if I do play as Greece, I kind of have to play this way. I think they're cultural, economic, maybe, or something. Cultural, scientific, I'm not sure. But it'd be great to be able to play like a Spartan Greece, like you said, and like versus an Athenian Greece, like we have now. And so, I think this would be another kind of DLC kind of ad down the line. That there really could be a way to, hey, give a nod to the fact that a lot of these antiquity age civs we've kind of smushed into one thing when they really are more like this. So let's kind of parse them out and gives the players some more depth into different ways to play Greece. And so I think the Spartans, I've come across the independent power Sparta in my games several times. And every time I think, like, man, I'm surprised that I'm seeing Sparta here when there is Greece, and two, just like, I don't know, I could see that being a civ that you could play in the game. So yeah, I think it's a good shout. Love it.
What's really funny is I didn't know that. I've not run into Sparta that I can remember yet. But I will say, one of the things that I have noticed is a lot of the current villages, a lot of those, I guess city-states, if you want to call them by their older names, right?
Independent powers, whatever.
Yeah, independent powers, right? They're actually ones that are going to be coming into the game, right? Like, Nepal is already in there. I forget who else is getting added right now. That's the one I always focus on because it's so out of the blue. But I guess, I don't know if the British are in there. I'd have to check. But my point is that there are, independent powers that will be coming into the game as civs. Like, we already know that they've announced it. So if Sparta's already in there, then maybe they could add them. Like, why not? If they are counting them as a separate power from Greece, then that would be fantastic, in my opinion. Because Greece really is kind of more of a Western, like, not even Western, because Greece is in the West. But you know what I mean? Like a conglomeration of city-states that people kind of just lump together when really they all are very different. Like, Corinth was more known for trading, right? And Athens was much more known for diplomacy. Macedon, was a part of Greece with Alexander. Like, everybody lumps Alexander with the Greeks, but really Macedon was its own area that ended up taking over the rest of Greece, right? And then he was the leader of the Greeks. So there's like a lot of different areas in that regard, and I would love to see it personally, Connor. I think that'd be really, really cool, and I appreciate your support on it. That means a lot.
No problem.
So
here for you, Rob. Yeah.
Thanks, man. But Connor, do you have anything else that you want to tell the people? I mean, I think these are our big ones that we were wanting to talk about. You need to let us know in the comments below if there are any that you would like, or if you think that ours are maybe unrealistic or something. Like, let us know about that. But anything else that you want to add and then take us out of here, Connor?
Yeah, I don't think so. Again, these are our opinions, but this is just the opinion of two players of the game that love the game. So we could dive a lot more into this. We talked before the call. We could do one where it's a civ for each age. We could do a whole lot of different things. But As you can hear right now, my dog is barking maybe in the background, so it's probably time we wrap this up. So thank you all for tuning in. We always really, really appreciate it. Thank you so much for the subscriptions and the views. It all means a lot to us. We're trying to grow the channel, and you all make that possible. So thank you. And from our house to yours, we hope you'll join us for one more turn. We'll see you next time.